Hey, it's Eric and Jay, and we are just back from Sebring International Raceway and the Yokohama Tire Southern Discomfort. We went to Sebring once before, of course. You may remember that was the 4th of July. It was 12 million degrees and nobody showed up. We thought we'd give it another go, and it was kind of great. One of the things that was maybe not so great that we didn't know about with this slightly earlier date in the year was Lovebugs. Now, if you're from Florida, you know all about Lovebugs. We are not from Florida. We don't know anything about them. Turns out, these damn things are everywhere, getting it on, they're stuck together, crawling all over you while they're having sex. It's terrible.
Speaking of bugs, we actually had two Volkswagen bugs. We had two 73 Super Beetles. Bear in mind the difference between a Super Beetle and a regular Beetle, well, there is none. So one was JB Bugs, this Florida team. They do a lot of endurance racing. They were great. And that thing, they know how to do it. They were slow. They were steady. That thing ran like a train. The other was a couple of highly respectable professional medical doctors in the perennially horrible Johann Samantha. I don't even know how to describe this. It's not a 935 for poor people. It's a 935 for completely dysfunctional broke people living under a bridge. Both of these Beetles have super cheaty, air-cooled, high-technology engines. They've spent billions of dollars developing these powertrains, which made them, good enough for 31st and 32nd out of a 58-car field.
And of course, now that eBay is a sponsor, teams aren't shutting up about getting eBay parts.
We bought eBay a part, and it works. It's so nice. What a fuel.
I want to know how much those Lovebugs cost you. Those were on eBay for $16.
Yeah, and as long as we're shamelessly shilling here, I should also mention that Yokohama, who's been a sponsor for years, they launched the Road Mangler LM Cup at this race. Here's how this works. Any Yokohama tire magically becomes a Road Mangler LM when you show up for Lemons. You get this decal, we put it on, it says Road Mangler LM, and you are automatically entered in the drawing at the awards to win a free set of Yokohama tires. Which on the one hand is awesome because you can get Geolanders for your home car if you want, and on the other hand, you are buying a set of tires for only a remote chance of getting another set of tires. It's the American way.
Now, this being our first race in Florida in several years, it was basically a new region, which meant lots of new teams and new cars. Among those was the garbage raced in the South Datsun 200 SX, which was a frighteningly stock Datsun from the 1980s. You may know these guys from Lemon's iRacing, where they also drove an iRacing car with a Guitar Hero controller. They won Class C at this race in their debut.
Kind of but terrible was the sorer losers in this SC400. Like 700 people have owned this car. None of them have liked it.
Kind of hella sweet were these doctors in a Mazda Miata done up in a Hippocratic Oath theme.
We are ready for your organs. Bring them on.
Kind of hella sweet and but terrible because it was a Chevy Cobalt was I shit you not. Excellent spelling on that. These are dealership guys out of Atlanta. They sheared off every flywheel bolt on the car and amazingly found flywheel bolts, put it back together. Wait a minute, it's a Cobalt, it's Florida. Not so amazing.
Still a rolling sarcophagus.
True.
But terrible Ford Probe, circle track car, it blew the hell up, but they had road manglers on it. At first winner of the Yokohama Road Mangler Cup was Team 155 Projectile Dysfunction in their Mazda MX-3.
Hella Sweet 777, the hairdresser Miata. Now this is a really tired and divisive and really an offensive theme, but gotta give these guys credit. I mean, they were super committed. They had a good attitude. They weren't really beating anybody up. They just kind of liked the outfits.
Hella Sweet also was turtle racing in their Toyota Tercel. Now, every single Tercel, it seems, that shows up looks exactly like this. The same teal color, the same tiny wheels, the same kind of guys making it on rubbing two nickels together. They were great. It was awesome. Somehow they blew up a Tercel engine, which I don't know how you do.
Yet to your point, there was a second Tercel, looked exactly like the first Tercel. I mean, indistinguishable, except for the eBay $30 supercharger on the front, which they showed up in tech. They had the supercharger plugged in. It was incredibly loud, and they realized it was going to completely destroy their motor, so they took it off to race and did about as well as a Tercel generally does.
Now, the team brought a second car, which was a Festiva with a Capri XR2 engine, as you do in Stiva life. Now, to go along with their awesome swap, the team were also dressed up in Florida-style costumes to match their sweet car.
Were they, though? Were they actually? Hello Sweet Floridiot brought their 944 with the grafted-on Sebring nose and the Pyongyang asphalt grabber tires. They brought the judges a really cool tire cooler. They had a good attitude. These guys were great.
Also, hella sweet was Savage Motorsports. These guys have been around a long time. They came and brought a nice Price is Right style bribing game to BS inspection. That was hella sweet.
But Terrible, frequent flyer on But Terrible. Sasha showed up, Team Sputnik, with their Nissan Axis. I don't know, man. Numbers are hard. Gauges are hard. Apparently head gaskets are hard. Interestingly, Sasha has this theory. He goes, head gaskets are not necessary. You don't need a head gasket. Engine will run like 2 laps without the head gasket. And you know what? He was right. It ran exactly 2 laps.
But Terrible, again, Escape Velocity's Turbo Dart. We saw this car at NOLA getting its parts flown in to fix it. It didn't even get that far, blew up a whole bunch, didn't really turn any laps at all, drove all the way from Houston. Kind of a But Terrible weekend.
But Terrible Grassroots Motorsports brought their Mazda Miata, and they brought a bunch of really racery guys, and they built a really highly engineered wing for the back of the car, which, as far as we can tell, was reducing their top speed without adding a lot of downforce. I don't know. They were in the penalty box all the time. When you bring real racers to a Lemons race, it's just not good.
But Terrible was the old dude's 1965 Ford Ranchero, Why You Ruin Classic. Now, this car has probably a little more motor than the average Lemons car, which just means that it kills its clutch, and then when it actually goes fast, it throws the wheel off because it, shears all of the lug studs off. Both those things happen. They had no ability to load it on their trailer after the race. They might still be in Florida.
But Terrible, Fail Inc., Donnie, Florida man. What can you even say? They chased gremlins all weekend long. Turns out somebody had tried to monkey the pins on the ECU connector so they were all bent and they weren't connecting. And they finally got that worked out. Didn't explain why they only had 4th gear. To be fair, I think they finished the race.
No, they didn't. But Terrible, this RX-7, hood releases are hard.
Tell me about how it was excellent. And never won.
But Terrible / Hella Sweet Popcorn Racing traded in their Buick Regal for they upgraded to a 2011 Panther. They lost 3rd and 4th gear, I think. They wound up doing the entire race. This is like, 30-mile long racetrack. They did it with 2nd and 5th. I think their top speed was about 57 miles an hour. They still scored very, very well in the standings. Well done. But Terrible, I gotta say, Duff Beer. Usually these guys are hella sweet. They've had this Volvo forever, and for like 10 races to get it started is this convoluted 9-step process where you gotta put the thing in snow mode, and then you gotta turn the key halfway and do all of this stuff or else it won't run. They've been fighting with that. The car's been getting slower and slower and slower, and they have no idea why. They can't figure it out. So at this race, some kid on the forum who's like a shade tree mechanic said, "Hey, I'll come join your team. I'll just come hang out with you." So he did. He gets there and he says, "You guys know there's a burglar system on this car, right? And if you just push this button, all of that stuff goes away." So now they can start their car. As they're driving it around, they come in and they go, "It's getting slower and slower. And coincidentally, the floor is incredibly hot right under my foot. These can't be related." The guy said, "Is your catalytic converter totally plugged up with magma and goo?" Gosh, maybe it is. And they took that out. Car runs like a train. So the moral is, get the random kid off the forum. He'll solve all of your problems.
Now, hella sweet is the semi-sentient Centenarians and their 1996 Buick Century. This is a car that has done way better than it has any right to as a Buick Century. They wanted it to go faster, so they did what anybody does in these situations. They went and got the engine out of a Buick Tercel.
All right, so that gets us to the trophies for this race, and let's start with the heroic fix. This went to a mostly family team called the Ragin' Cajuns and Paul.
Now, Paul, we should mention, is the team's friend from California.
Clearly not a Cajun. So the Ragin' Cajuns and Paul, they brought a Miata to MSR. Previously, the car did not pass tech. I don't know how you can bring a Miata that can't pass tech, but they couldn't pass tech, so they never raced before. They showed up with a different car at this race. They sailed through tech. It was all going great. They brought their mom. This race is on Mother's Day weekend, and that means mothers get to race free at this race. They brought their mom. They were having a great time. They ran a whole lap before their motor completely exploded. Hey, they weren't worried. They made it this far. They found a new motor. They put the motor in the car. They put all the parts together. They went back out. They didn't dominate, but they also didn't suck. They had a good weekend. Well done.
I Got Screwed at this race went to a multiple I Got Screwed award winner, if you can call them winners, Tarp Racing and their BMW E36. This is, of course, the Hatsune Miku BMW. They were towing from Houston, got to Mobile, Alabama, where the Dodge tow truck called it quits on a bridge. They dumped the tow truck at a dealership, got an in-town rental from U-Haul, and hauled another 9 hours down to Sebring. Now, the car was totally ready to go, was absolutely going to dominate. It was flying for the first hour of the race, and then the wheels came off. Literally. The left rear wheel popped right off, and the right one was most of the way gone when it got dropped at their paddock. And when I say dropped, I mean dropped. The wayward wheel had also scratched up one of the beautifully painted fenders, so that also wrecked that for them that they had spent so much time on. When they got it back on the track, the hood pins pulled straight out and somehow didn't smash the windshield, but just kind of exemplified the kind of weekend that they had had. So, well-earned Tarp Racing.
Eric, I just want to clarify, there's no chance whatsoever that they forgot to retorque the wheels or put in the hood pins, is there?
No, I'm sure not.
Okay, good. I'm just checking. The regional trophy for this race was the Remove Before Flight Award. We gave this to a group of, about a dozen Embry-Riddle students and a couple of assorted hangers-on. These guys, they brought two cars. One of their cars is a Mustang. It's like an 07, it's an automatic, it's a V6, it's terrible. Like a week before the race, they're still looking for a cage builder. They finally got a cage in this thing. Bearing in mind, these are people who are going to work in the aircraft industry for a living when they graduate. They showed up. One of their guys was bringing his stuff to tech, and he's almost passing out in the heat. And he's like, dude, what? Are you okay? Are you feeling? He goes, I just got my second vaccine. Honk! And he collapsed right on the... Man, these guys were just having a rough go of it. And then, as soon as we were underway, all of a sudden, they figured it all out. They were having a great time. They were hitting their marks. The car was running great. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. Until day 2, when they pulled out from their fuel stop, somehow magically dragging a full pan of motor oil under the car for a quarter of a mile. And then they left that, and then they kept driving with no plug in their car and oil down the entire track. I think we used 49 bags of oil dry, a Lemon's best record, by the way. These guys were great.
Jay, you're looking a bit orange. Are you thinking of a presidential run? What's going on here?
I don't know what happened. It's like my Zoom camera has turned into 3 Mile Island. I don't know why that is, but you know what? This is me, man. Get used to it.
Now, Judge's choice of this race went to Bad Penny Racing in their 2003 Ford Thunderbird.
Thunderbird!
Why You Ruined Classic. Now, if you've been around Lemons, you probably don't need a whole lot of explaining about why this car is awesome, but the highlights: this was a Motor Trend Car of the Year, worth pointing out. It is built on Jaguar parts, mostly. It's super heavy. It's ugly as all The weird cage didn't help any of that. Now, this particular car is an actual Lemon Law buyback, which has this sticker on the door sill that reads like it's somehow the owner's fault that the car was a lemon and not the Ford Motor Company's. When the team took it to Carvana to have the dollar amount assessed for it, it turns out the title on it was more radioactive than Jay's.
This is 'cause I'm orange, isn't it?
Somehow, this car actually wasn't that bad. It was kind of quickish. It killed the brakes pretty good, and that sidelined it for an entire day, but still hella sweet to see this thing on the track, especially next to a Chrysler Sebring.
Organizer's choice went to Off Kilter Racing and their Plymouth Valiant. This car originally showed up at Road Atlanta, and they were just like, I don't know, do we think we're going to like this? They're totally bonkers now, to the point. Slant 6 domination. Legit slant 6, car legit runs, well done.
This brings us at last to the Index of Effluency, which went to NSF Racing and their, what else, Chrysler Sebring. Now, this being a race where we offered a free thing, of course NSF Racing took us up on it. If you don't know...
Two free things.
That's right. NSF, fantastic moochers, some of our favorite people in Lemons. Absolutely wonderful people. We offered the opportunity for anybody to show up with a Chrysler Sebring at Sebring to race for free, and anybody who brought their mother or a mother to the race on Mother's Day weekend to race for free. And of course, NSF turned up with a Chrysler Sebring full of mothers. And guess what? They kicked the out of everybody. And by kick the out of everybody, I mean finished 24th overall, including a pass for position on the finish straight. And Mary Harris, Dr. Mary Harris, ran a quicker lap in the Sebring than a C4 Corvette. Total domination.
Well, that's it for Florida. Here's Lemons in a nutshell.